we're going to dive into the world of W2 Worlds, which is the 2016 fantasy romance. So I know this is based off of a webtoon, but I think that the idea is still super intriguing because the drama basically introduces the idea that a webtoon or a manhwa is a world that the artist creates. Like literally you create a parallel dimension, which I think is really funny at the same time because a bunch of artists are just like, oh my gosh, are we just creating dimensions at our fingertips without knowing them when we create OCs? But while you're dealing with those implications, this totally ties in with Oyeonju's dad going completely bonkers over his god complex. I absolutely love this story and I really like the premise that it's based off of, but I think if I have one small bone to pick, and I think it's an important point to talk about, and it's how they keep revealing rules. And I think how you feel about this is whatever perspective you come at it as. And because sometimes these rules are revealed to forward the plot, right? And they also play in with Kang Cho's personality and also Oyeonju's like whole thing with him. Points of like how Oyeonju can't be hurt in the manhwa world because she doesn't belong here technically. She's just kind of like a tourist, like a visitor. And she belongs in the real world, in another dimension. So she cannot get hurt in there. And then she starts being able to get hurt and possibly killed because she starts dating Kang Cho, which makes her a main lead, a real character in the manhwa versus just being someone in the real world. And I think that things like that are cool. And then it slowly becomes this conclusion of the manhwa world and the real world being separate dimensions, being two worlds. Get it? Two worlds. While the manhwa serves as a portal of sorts between the two worlds, like the physical comic itself. And that leaves a lot of room for imagination. I think it's really cool because that turns into sometimes I'm like, oh, that was so smart. Why didn't I think of that? And then sometimes I'm like, what? Since when? Because I feel like they were trying to cover all of their plot holes at the same time. Episodes like I think like 1 through 10 were like super strong and almost everything made sense, like although it kept blowing your mind, but you're like, oh, I can see where that came from, or you're like, oh yeah, that's a natural progression of that rule that we had just found out about a few episodes back. But then like somewhere along the line I was like, this is getting too complicated. There are too many rules and too many situations and too many ropes and lines and strings just being jumbled together, and it felt like the writers also knew that and the writers also felt that, and so they started like trying to fix it as they were writing it, or they were trying to address it as they were writing it. Alright, so the lighting might turn weird because the sky just suddenly turned cloudy and I think it's gonna rain. Another small bone I have to pick, and it is a very small bone, but it's with the villain, and it's just like the actor that was playing him was so goddamn brilliant. It was kind of scary because him originally, even him pre this webtoon and him post this webtoon, is just like a really depressed alcoholic who's not a healthy person in any aspect, really. Physically, emotionally, mentally, whatever. When you see him play the villain with such a chilling, he's like so gladly enjoying that he's evil. But I will say that it honestly just felt like it took too long for the playing field to get even. For most of the drama, it felt like either the villain or the dad held most of the cards, and we were just watching Kang Cho make all of the wrong decisions technically because he didn't have any context at all. And that made episodes like when Kang Cho finally was able to summon himself into the manhwa world from the real world and also summon himself back in order to try to end this story and try to face off the villain. It made the episode a lot more satisfying because it felt like we were finally using all of the rules that we found out earlier in this drama and that Kang Cho was just never able to use to his own advantage. But this is also one of my favorite couples in a drama that I've seen in such a long time. I ship this O to B so much. Oh my gosh, I cannot. They're so cute. This is one of the couples where I really wanted them to date in real life. I was watching all of the interviews and I was like, oh my god, it'd be so cute if they dated because they were just so cute in the drama, and it was not only their characters, but I felt like there was just so much chemistry and tension between them. So amazing. All of their scenes were super cute, like the one where they were just sitting by the river with their ice creams, or he was like buying her clothes, or the prison makeout scene, it was hot. 100 out of 10. I think it also hit me because it was like, yeah, we always make fun of the fact that K-dramas don't have proper kisses, or they kiss very lightly, or even when they kiss properly, it's not very like long. And I guess it's also like, it's kind of a good thing because I don't know, I think as a kid, after watching so much American media, I was so desensitized to like just watching people kiss. It was just like, yeah, Just watching that. And I don't feel like that's normal. But you get a little surprised because they like start off kissing and then the detective interrupts and he's like, oh, sorry, let me leave. And then he hoists her up and continues and she puts her handcuffs over his... Oh, yeah. Some of my favorite scenes in the beginning was how meta she had to think as a creator and as like a webtoon consumer. Because she's like trying to get out of the manhwa, right? And so she's like, oh, I need a cliffhanger. So she goes up to him and she slaps him. And then she's like, oh, maybe that wasn't it. I'll kiss him. That's a cliffhanger. And it works. But I like how it's not because like he fell for her or anything. But honestly, the shock factor to him was just enough. Like for the slap, he was just kind of like, okay. Whatever. But then because he's like slowly getting used to her weird side, she needs to keep upping the ante. So the next time she finds herself in the manhwa world, she's like holding up lingerie and a gun. And I was like, that is great humor. And of course there are some tropes that every drama touches upon, but again, I like how this drama dealt with them because they are fated to be. It's not for the reason that you think they are. I think the natural thing would be assumed that they're fated to be because she saved him. She was the first person. It's like, you know, a duckling imprinting on the first person or first thing they see after they hatch, right? So she saved him, he looks at her, boom, fate. But no, because this whole thing is about, you know, creator versus creation kind of thing, it turns out that Oh Yeon-ju is actually the first person who made him or who dreamt him up. Basically gave him his characteristics and made him who he is. And that is why, my friends, if you're asking why is he so perfect, he's the ideal guy, it's because a 13-year-old made him. He's 185 centimeters tall, which is equivalent to like 6'1", 6'2". He's smart, funny, really kind. Sound very familiar? Some familiar adjectives we would have used, ladies? He's amazing at his hobby, but he's also top of his school. This sounds like every shoujo manga because it was made by a teenage girl, and I think that's so funny and also so meta. I love it that there's a legit explanation as to why he is the dream guy for most girls, most teenage girls. Then there's the amnesia, because Kangchul thought that in order to reset everything, since everything already hit the fan and it's a possibility that Oh Yeon-ju might die in the manhwa world, the only way is to send her back to her world without him remembering that he ever met her. But because the dad is frustrating and he doesn't know the entire context, the dad is so frustrating, he created a bunch of problems that he didn't really take responsibility for until like the last second. And he also made more mistakes along the way because he just wouldn't fess up to his mistakes in the beginning. Oh my gosh. That's a warning to all you artists out there and all you creators. Do not just set up villains or things as setups. Like, the only reason why the villain is because the dad never gave him an identity, never bothered to give him an identity, didn't even give him a face. Didn't give him a face. The basic thing that you need. Because that was all he ever was. He was just a way for Kangchul to become stronger or to get the story started, right? Because of that, he basically gets this superpower of being able to go wherever he wants, whatever he wants, because he has no real body, he has no real being. He just was kind of loosely thought up. So wrap up your plot holes, creators, and make sure you give everybody that you put in your story an actually identity, or else they're just gonna come and haunt your dreams. Also, I'm going to attempt the cloud paint thing on my face. Never done it, so why not do the first try on a video? Yes, Selena, you're very smart. But yeah, going back to the amnesia, makes it sad and hilarious at the same time because she carried around Kangchul's ring like she was a widow, and then she was just complaining like, oh, we didn't even do anything and he left. He didn't die, we didn't get divorced, but he just left. Also, that makes their second meeting all the more hilarious because she's like remembers everything, right? So she's looking at him in a combination of love and regret and longing, and he's just staring at her like, can I help you? It's so funny. Alright, so I realized that it kind of looks cute at certain angles, but at other angles I kind of look like I just have band-aids on my face. Overall, I still really like this drama. The pacing in the beginning was really tight, and you were just constantly finding out, oh, this new rule, this character, blah blah, oh, that's an interesting realization. Also, I really appreciated the effects of them going from like 2D drawn people to 3D real people. I'm like assuming it's a program where you just take whatever was pre-shot and then you apply like a filter, or you put it into the program and it comes out like as a 2D person. But it still takes time to animate. Like when you still have to take time for that. And I think that effort is appreciated. One of my favorite things that I like about Eunju is that she feels like she's very mediocre at things, right? So she was never that great of an artist, which is probably why she never really pursued it as a career. I think she's super average as a doctor or as a heart surgeon, and you know, this is the only thing that she's sure of, is that she loves this man and she wants to save him. Kangchul, you know, as somebody with such an unbending will that he was able to break the fourth wall in his own world, had to come to terms that he was a creation. And I think that one scene of him going into the workshop and realizing that all of his features, everything that he's ever known about himself, his world, his friends, has been hand by hand drawn, revised, and then finalized by somebody else. Like, it was never him, it was never real, it was never his life. Even his parents, people that he like knew were real, memories that he had of these people, and the trauma of seeing them die in front of his eyes, and him carrying this guilt and just everything for years, and then realizing that this was just a setup that someone had thought of, that someone was like, oh yeah, to make his story more interesting, to make him stronger, let's kill his parents, let's make him have this trauma. And that's absolutely heartbreaking. The whole speech of Kangchul telling Eunju's dad that you decided to put all of the trauma that you couldn't bear, things like jumping off that bridge, things that you didn't have courage for, going for your dreams, you know, being young and tall and talented, things that you didn't have the bravery and the courage to do, you pushed them onto me without realizing what it did to me. And that was also a very interesting like line to tread. I like things like this that kind of make you think about like the morality of things. I think just everything was pretty well written, especially the dialogue, and the screenplay was really well done. I just wish somebody had thought out the story in advance before writing it, because I felt like they kind of got halfway and then they realized that they couldn't rewrite the whole thing, so they just tried to readdress everything in the last half. I think this drama still did a pretty good job of delivering what it promised though, which is it's like an action, thriller, fantasy, romance. And I think there was a lot of that. There was definitely a lot of thriller elements of it. As somebody who's not a big fan of horror or thriller, I thought this was a very good compromise, because there were some jump scares, but there was just enough thriller in there to keep you entertained. This is still one of the dramas that I go back and watch a lot because I just really enjoy the premise. And just again, especially because I think the first 10 episodes were so tightly woven. The couple is so cute. There are some moments where I just want to live in that world with them, and it's just very enjoyable to see all of the strings kind of come together and on knot and come together and knot. This drama was also super beautifully shot. Like, you can tell when they're in the manhwa world that things are a little bit more cartoony, things are very much brighter, the setup is just a lot more, you know, fictional, and then the palette when they come back to the real world is a lot more dull. But yeah, this is the look for today. I tried to do something kind of like the poster with pink and blue, and then I tried the cloud effects. Not really satisfied with it, but I mean, I tried it for the first time ever on camera. Love that. Yeah. Overall, I really like this drama. I'm really glad that they took a webtoon idea and ran with it, because it's a super intriguing and innovating idea. And, you know, I would just like to see more of these, you know, kind of like what if situations. What if this was real? What if this happened? It's kind of mind-blowing sometimes. I hope you guys liked this video. This video was a little bit of a mess. It's kind of, I'm in a weird mood today, and also the weather outside just really isn't helping. I think I picked the wrong drama to talk about, because there are so many things I love about this drama that I don't think I can explain or I can put into words exactly. But there are also things that I want to pick out about this drama, because I think those arguments are valid and I noticed them as well. And I don't want people to go into dramas thinking that they're gonna get something perfect and then be like, you forgot to mention this blazing plot hole. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys like this drama, please leave it down in the comments what you loved about it, what you didn't like about it, if you agree with my points or not, or if you just like this video in general. If you want to see more of these, or if you want to let me know what dramas you want to watch, please let me know down in the comments and I'll see if I can get to them. Thank you guys so much for watching. Bye!